Oh, Mitakuye, I say. Hello, all my relations. How y'all doing? My name is the Lucky Coyote, and today we are going to be playing, or sorry, we're going to be reading, actually. Um, Later on, I'm going to be doing some scrimmaging with my team, or faction, I should say, on Marble Rivals, so that should be fun. But that's going to be in about a half hour, so this is going to be kind of a short stream. Unfortunately, normally it's much later, so that way I have time. But today it's going to be a little earlier. So let's get to some reading. That is not the title. I got to stop doing that. So this first story is entitled The Spirit in the Bottle. So let's get to it. The Spirit in the Bottle by the Brothers Grimm. There was once upon a time a poor woodcutter who worked from morning till quite late at night, and after doing so for a very long time, he managed to save some money, and he said to his son, "You are my only child, and so this money, which I have earned by the hard sweat of my brow, shall be spent on your education. Do you learn something useful, whereby you may support me in my old age, when my limbs become so stiff that I am obliged to sit still at home." Thereupon the son went to a great school, and was very industrious, so he became much noticed for it, and there he remained a long time. After he had gone through a long course of study, but still had not learnt all that was to be learnt, the store of money which his father had earned was exhausted, and he was obliged to return home again. "Ah, I I can give you no more, said the father sadly, for in these dear times I can scarce earn enough for my daily bread. Make yourself easy on that point, my dear father, replied the son. If it is God's will, be sure it is all for the best. I will suit myself to the times. Afterwards, when the father was about to go into the forest to earn something by chopping and clearing, his son said, I will accompany you and help you. Ah, but my son, said the father, that will be a hard matter for you, who have never been used to such hard work. You must not attempt it. Besides, I have only one axe, and no money either to buy another. Go then and ask your neighbor to lend you one, till I shall have earned enough to buy one for myself, replied the son. So the father borrowed an axe of his neighbor, and the next morning, at break of day, they went together to the forest. The son assisted his father, and was very lively and merry over his work. And about noon, when the sun stood right over their heads, the father proposed to rest for a while and eat their dinner. And then, after that, they would be able to work all the better. The son, however, taking his share of bread, said, Do you rest here, father? I am not tired, and I will go a little way into the forest and look for birds' nests. Oh, you silly fellow, said the father. What do you want to run about for? You will make yourself so tired. You will not be able to raise your arm. Keep quiet a bit and sit down here with me. But the young man would not do so, but went off among the trees, eating his bread, and peeping about among the bushes for any nest he could find. To and fro he walked a long way, and presently came to an immense oak tree. Excuse me for a second. Just ease. Which was certainly many 100 years old, and could not have been spanned round by any 5 men. He stopped still to look at the tree, thinking that many a bird's nest must be built within it, and while he did so, he suddenly heard, as he thought, a voice. He listened, and soon heard again a half-smothered cry of, "Let me out! Let me out!" He looked around, but could see nothing. Still the voice appeared to come, as it were, from the ground. So he called, "Where are you?" And the voice replied, "Here I stick among the roots of the oak tree. Let me out! Let me out!" The scholar, therefore, began to search at the foot of the tree, where the roots spread, and at last, in a little hollow, he found a glass bottle. He picked it up, and holding it to the light, he perceived a thing in the shape of like a frog, which kept jumping up and down. "Let me out! Let me out!" cried the thing again, and the scholar, thinking no evil, drew out the stopper of the bottle. Immediately a spirit sprang out, and began to grow, and grow so fast that in a very few moments he stood before the scholar like a frightful giant, half the size of the tree. "Do you know," he cried with a voice like thunder, "do you know what your reward is for letting me out of the glass bottle?" "No," replied the scholar, without fear. "How should I?" "Then I will tell you," cried the spirit. "I must break your neck." "You should have told me that before," returned the scholar, "and then you should have struck where you were. But my head will stick on my shoulders in spite of you, for there are several people's opinions to be asked yet about that matter."
"Keep your people out of my way," rejoined the spirit. "But you deserved reward you must receive. Do you suppose I have been shut up so long out of mercy? No, it was for my punishment. I am the mighty Mercury, and whoever lets me out, his neck must I break."
"Softly, softly," said the scholar. "That is quicker than done, said than done. I first must know really that you were in the bottle, and that you are truly a spirit. If I see you return into the bottle, I will believe, and then you may do with me as you please." Full of pride, the spirit answered,
"That is an easy matter."
And, drawing himself together, he became as thin as he had been at first, and soon crept through the same opening back again into the bottle. Scarcely was he completely in, when the scholar put the stopper back into the neck, and threw the bottle down among the oak tree roots at the old place. So the spirit was deceived. After this, the scholar would have gone back to his father, but the spirit cried lamentably, "Oh, let me out! Do let me out!" "No," replied the scholar, not a second time. "He who tried to take away my life once, I shall not let out in a hurry, when I have got him safe again." "If you will free me," pleaded the spirit, "I will give you as much as will serve you for your lifetime." "No, no," rejoined the scholar. "You will deceive me as you did at first." "You are fighting against your own fortune," replied the spirit. "I will do you no harm, but reward you richly." "Well, I will hazard it," thought the scholar to himself. "Perhaps he will keep his word, and do me no injury." And, so thinking, he took the stopper out of the bottle again, and the spirit sprang out as before, stretched himself up, and became as big as a giant.
"Now you shall have your reward," said the spirit, reaching the scholar a little piece of rag in the shape like a plaster. "If you apply one end of this to a wound, it shall heal directly, and if you touch with the other steel or iron, either will be changed into silver."
"That I must try first," said the scholar, and, going to a tree, he tore off a piece of bark with his axe, and then touched it with one end of the rag, and immediately the wound closed up, as if nothing had been done. "Now it is all right," said the scholar. "Now we can separate." Then the spirit thanked him for releasing him, and the scholar thanked the spirit for his present, and went back to his father. "Where have you been roaming to?" asked the father. "Why, you have quite forgotten your work. I said rightly that you would do nothing of this kind well." "Be contented, father. I will make up the time," said the son.
"Yes, you will make it up truly," broke in the father angrily, "without an axe."
"Now see, father, I will cut down that tree at one blow." And, so saying, the son took his rag, rubbed the axe with it, and gave a powerful blow. But because the axe was changed into silver, the edge turned up. "Ah, father, do you see what an axe you have given me? It has no edge at all," said the son. The father was frightened and said, "Ah, what have you done? Now I must pay for the axe, and I know not how, for it is the one which I borrowed for your work." "Don't be angry. I will soon pay for the axe," said the son. But the father exclaimed, "Why, you simpleton, how will you do that? You have nothing but what I give you. This is some student's trick, which is stuck in your head, but of woodcutting you know nothing at all." After a pause, the scholar said, "Father, I can work no more. Let us make a holiday tomorrow."
now." "Eh? What?" was the answer. "Do you think I can keep my hands in my pockets as you do? I must get on, but you can go home." The son replied he did not know the way, as it was his first time being in the forest. And at last he persuaded his father to accompany him home, his wrath being passed away. When they arrived at their house, the father told his son to go and sell the axe which was damaged, and the rest he must earn in order to pay his neighbor for it. So the son took the axe and carried it to a goldsmith in the city, who, after proving it, laid it in his scales and said, "It is worth $1, and so much I have not by me in the house." "Give me what you have," said the scholar, "and I will trust you the remainder." The goldsmith gave him $300 and left the other as a debt, and thereupon the scholar went home and said to his father, "Go, ask the neighbor what he will have for his axe, for I have got some money." "I know already," answered his father. $1, 6 groschen is the price." "Then give him $2 and 12 groschen. That is double, and enough. See, here, I have money in abundance." And he gave his father $100, saying, "You shall never want now. Live at your ease." "My goodness," said the man, "where have you procured this money?" The son told his father all that had happened, and how he had made such a capital catch by trusting to his luck. With the rest of the money, however, he returned to the university and learnt all that he could, and afterwards, because he could heal all wounds with his plaster, he became the most celebrated doctor in the whole world. Thus ends The Spirit in the Bottle. This next story is entitled The Two Wanderers. So let us begin. The Two Wanderers by the brothers Grimm. It is certain that hills and valleys always meet, and it is often happens on the earth that her children, both the good and the wicked, cross each other's paths continually. So it once occurred that a shoemaker and a tailor fell together during their travels. Now, the tailor was a merry little fellow, always making the best of everything, and he saw the shoemaker approaching from the opposite road, and remarked by his knapsack what trade he was. He began a little mocking rhyme, singing, "Stitch away, stitch away with your needle, pull away hard with your thread. Rub it with wax to the right and the left, and knock the old peg on the head." The shoemaker, however, could not take a joke, and drew a long face, as if he had been drinking vinegar, while he seemed inclined to lay hold of the tailor by the collar, but the latter began to laugh, and handed his bottle to the other, saying, "It is not ill meant. Just drink and wash down the gall." The shoemaker thereupon took a long pull, and immediately the gathering storm vanished, and, as he gave the tailor back his bottle, he said, "I should have spoken to you rightly, but one talks better after a great drinking than after a long thirst. Shall we travel together now?" "Right willingly," answered the tailor, "if you have but a mind to go into some large town where work is not wanting to those who seek it." "That is just the place I should like," rejoined the shoemaker. In a little nest there is nothing to be earned, and the people in the country would rather go barefoot than buy shoes. So they wandered away, setting always one foot before the other, like a weasel in the snow. Time enough had both our heroes but little either to bite or break. When they came to the first town, they went round requesting work, and because the tailor looked so fresh and merry and had such red cheeks, everyone gave him what he could spare to do. And moreover, he was so lucky that the master's daughters behind the shop would give him a kiss as he passed. So it happened that when he met again with his companion, his bundle was better filled of the two. The fretful shoemaker drew a sour face and thought, "The greater the rogue, the better the luck." But the other began to laugh and sing, and shared all that he received with his comrade, for if only a couple of groschen jingled in his pocket, he would out with them, throw them on the table with such force that the glasses danced, and cry out, "Lightly earned, lightly spent." After they had wandered about for some time, they came to a large forest, through which the road passed to the royal city. But there were two ways, one of which was 7 days long, and the other only 2. But neither of the travelers knew which was the shorter. They therefore sat down under an oak tree to consult how they should manage, and for how many days they should take bread with them. The shoemaker said, "One must provide for further than one goes, so I will take with me bread for 7 days." "What?" cried the tailor. "Carry bread for 7 days on your back like a beast of burden, so that you can't look round? I shall commit myself to God, and care for nothing. The money which I have in my pocket is as good in summer as in winter, but the bread will get dry, and musty besides, in this hot weather. Why should we not find the right way? Bread for 2 days, and luck with it." Thereupon each one brought his own bread, and then they started in the forest to try their fortune. It was as quiet and still as a church. Not a breath of wind was stirring, not a brook bubbling, a bird singing, nor even a sunbeam shining through the thick leaves. The shoemaker spoke never a word, for the heavy bread passed upon his back so sorely that the sweat ran down over his morose and dark countenance. The tailor, on the other hand, was as merry as a lark, jumping about, whistling through straws, or singing songs. Thus 2 days passed, but on the third, when no end was to be found to the forest, the tailor's heart fell a bit, for he had eaten all his bread. Still he did not lose courage, but put his trust in God and his own luck. The third evening he lay down under a tree, hungry, and awoke the next morning not less so. The fourth day was just the same, and when the shoemaker sat down on an uprooted tree and devoured his midday meal, nothing remained to the tailor but to look on. He begged once a bit of bread, but the other laughed in his face and said, "You are always so merry, and now you can try for once in your life to show how a man feels when he is at his end, when he is sad. Birds which sing too early in the morning are caught by the hawk in the evening." In short, he was without pity for his companion. The 5th morning, however, the poor tailor could not stand upright, and could scarcely speak from faintness. His cheeks, besides, were quite white, and his eyes red. Then the shoemaker said to him, "I will give you today a piece of bread, but I must put out your right eye for it." The unhappy tailor, who still wished to preserve his life, could not help himself, He wept once with both eyes, and then the shoemaker, who had a heart of stone, put out his right eye with a needle. Then the poor fellow recollected what his mother had once said to him when he had been eating in the storeroom. "One may eat too much, but one must also suffer for it." As soon as he had swallowed his dearly purchased bread, he got upon his legs again, forgot his misfortune, and comforted himself by reflecting that he still had one eye left to see with. But on the 6th day, hunger again tormented him, and his heart began to fail him. When evening came, he sank down under a tree, and on the 7th morning he could not raise himself from faintness, for death sat on his neck. The shoemaker said, "I will yet show you mercy, and give you a piece of bread. But as a recompense, I must put out your left eye." The tailor, remembering his past sinfulness, begged pardon of God, and then said to his companion, "Do what you will. I will bear what I must. But remember that our God watches every action, and that another hour will come when the wicked deed shall be punished, which you have practiced upon me, and which I have never deserved. In prosperous days I shared with you what I had. My business is one which requires stitch for stitch. If I have no longer sight, I can sew no more, and must go begging. Let me not, when I am blind, lie here all alone, or I shall perish." The shoemaker, however, had driven all thoughts about God out of his heart, and he took the knife and put out the left eye of his comrade. Then he gave him a piece of bread to eat, reached him a stick, and led him behind him. As the sun was setting, they got out of the forest, and before them, in a field, stood a gallows. The shoemaker led the blind tailor to it, left him lying there, and went his way. From weariness, pain, and hunger, the poor fellow slept the whole night long, and when he awoke at daybreak, he knew not where he was. Upon the gallows hung two poor sinners, and upon each of their heads sat a crow, one of which said to the other, "Brother, are you awake?" "Yes, I am," replied the second. "Then I will tell you something," said the first crow. "The dew which has fallen over us this night from the gallows will give sight to him who needs it, if he but wash himself with it. If the blind knew this, how many are there who would once more be able to see, who now think it impossible?" When the tailor heard this, he took his handkerchief, spread it on the grass, and as soon as it was soaked with dew, he washed his eyeballs therewith. Immediately the words of the crow were fulfilled, and he saw as clearly as ever. In a short while afterwards, the tailor saw the sun rise over the mountains, and before him, in the distance, lay the king's city, with its magnificent gates and 100 towers, over which the spires and pinnacles began to glisten in the sunbeams. He discerned every leaf upon the trees, every bird which flew by, and the gnats which danced in the air. He took a needle out of his pocket, and, when he found he could pass the thread through the eye as easily as ever, his heart leaped for joy. He threw himself upon his knees, and thanked God for the mercy shown to him. And while he said his morning devotions, he did not forget to pray for the two poor sinners, who swung to and fro in the wind like the pendulum of a clock. Afterwards, he took his bundle upon his back, and, forgetting his past sorrows and troubles, he jogged along, singing and whistling. The first thing he met was a brown filly, which was running about in the fields at liberty. The tailor caught it by its mane, and would have swung himself on its back to ride to the city, but the filly begged for its liberty, saying, "I am too young. Even a light tailor like you would break my back. Let me run about till I am stronger. A time, perhaps, will come when I can reward you." "Run away, then," replied the tailor. "I see you are still a rump." And with these words he gave it a curt with a switch which made it lift his hind legs for joy and spring away over a hedge and ditch into a field. But the tailor had eaten nothing since the previous day, and he thought to himself, "The sun certainly fills my eyes, but the bread does not fill my mouth. The first thing which meets me now must suffer, if it be at all edible." Just then a stork came walking very seriously over the meadow. "Stop, stop!" cried the tailor, catching it by the leg. "I don't know if you are fit to eat, but my hunger will not admit of choice, so I must chop off your head and roast you." "Do not," answered the stork. "I am a sacred bird, whom nobody offers an injury, and I shall bring great profit to man. Leave me alone, and then I can recompense you at some future time." "Be off, cousin Longlegs," said the tailor, and the stork, raising itself from the ground, flew gracefully away with its long legs hanging downwards. "What will come of this?" said the tailor to himself. "My hunger grows ever stronger, and my stomach yet more empty. What next crosses my path is lost." As he spoke, he saw a pair of young ducks swimming upon a pond. "You have come just when you were called," cried he, and, seizing one by the neck, he was about to twist it round, when an old bird, which was hid among the reeds, began to quack loudly, and swam with open bill up to the tailor, begging him pitifully to spare her dear child. "Think what your poor mother would say if one fetched you away and put an end to your life." "Be quiet," replied the good-natured tailor. "You shall have your child again." And he put the prisoner back into the water. As soon as he turned round again, he perceived the old hollow tree, and the wild bees flying in and out. "Here at last I shall find the reward of my good deed," said the tailor. "The honey will refresh me." But scarcely had he spoken when the queen bee flew out, and thus addressed him. "If you touch my people and disturb my nest, our stings shall pierce your skin like 10,000 red-hot needles. Leave us in peace and go your own way, and perhaps at a future time you shall receive a reward for it." The tailor perceived at once that nothing was to be had there. 3 empty dishes and nothing in the 4th is a bad meal, thought he to himself, and, trudging on, he soon got into the city, where, as it was about noon, he found a dinner ready cooked in the inn, and gladly sat down to table. When he was satisfied, he determined to go and seek work, and, as he walked around the city, he soon found a master, who gave him a good welcome. Since, however, he knew his business thoroughly, it very soon happened that he became quite famed, and everybody would have his new coat made by the little tailor. Every day added to his countenance, and he said to himself, "I can get no higher in my art, and yet every day trade gets brisker." At length he was appointed court tailor. One moment, chat. I actually have to get going. I have my stream too, so we will finish this stream later. for now, let us see. It's available.
Okay.
Well, since Suzu's the only one watching, we will leave it there. I want to thank y'all for coming up, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.